Hey, what is up guys? It's Brendan here, and today we're going to be doing a comparison of AliDropship versus Shopify. Which is better and what is the best tool for you to use when dropshipping? Alright guys, so we're now on the computer and this is a direct comparison of AliDropship versus Shopify. Now, before we dive into the pros and cons and everything, there's a few key details to understand about what AliDropship is in relation to Shopify. So, AliDropship is an AliExpress dropshipping company. I'll explain more about what AliDropship does and what they have to offer, but AliDropship plugin works on both WordPress and WooCommerce. Now, if you're not familiar with what WordPress is an open source software you can use to create a beautiful website, blog, or app. So WordPress is kind of the backbone there. It's almost more or less the base, the home base platform behind what you can use AliDropship on. So AliDropship is then compatible with WordPress and WooCommerce. If you don't know what WooCommerce is a customizable open source e-commerce platform that's built on WordPress. And so you can get started that way. WooCommerce is built off of WordPress. So if you are already set up with WooCommerce on your e-commerce store, you can use the AliDropship Woo version, which they have, as well as the regular AliDropship plugin. So AliDropship Woo is designed specifically for WooCommerce based e-commerce stores and websites, and then there's the regular AliDropship plugin that is compatible with WordPress. So if you haven't set up a website yet, you can get started with either one. There's pros and cons to each of those. It really just depends on what you're looking for as far as themes go and how you want your store set up. It's really up to you as to which option you want to go with, but if you do sign up with AliDropship, you are getting both of those plugins. So you have the flexibility to choose which one you actually want to go with at the end of the day. You do get both. So just those are the two compatibility options that you have there with AliDropship. Now, taking a look over at Shopify now, Shopify, a little bit more simple because the dropshipping platforms that work within Shopify, these are dropshipping apps that you just add on to Shopify. So, and a couple popular ones are Oberlo and Spocket. Those are the two we're focusing in on this video here today. Now, there's a whole laundry list of different types of dropshipping apps and plugins that you can use on Shopify. Those are just a couple key ones that we're mentioning in this video today. Obviously, there's a lot more that you could choose from. Those are just two of the most popular options that you have on the Shopify platform. So if you think about it from a platform perspective, WordPress is more or less the main platform there that AliDropship then works off of as an AliExpress dropshipping plugin that you can add to your WordPress or WooCommerce website. And then Oberlo and Spocket are kind of the dropshipping apps that then plug on to Shopify, as Shopify is the main e-commerce platform there. So digging into the specifics here of AliDropship and Shopify, what is AliDropship? Okay, so AliDropship, they offer products and services to start an AliExpress dropshipping business. That is what they are focused on. They also then have the various different products and services, such as their AliDropship plugin, which we just went into a little bit here, and AliDropship Woo. So AliDropship Woo is for WooCommerce, and AliDropship plugin, the regular one, is for WordPress. So however your website is set up, those are the two different options that you have there with AliDropship. And they also do offer custom dropshipping stores, so you can order a custom dropshipping store that's designed just for you. They do also offer that service, so they're not just a plugin. They also handle that as well for you if you want to. It does cost a bit more money than obviously just buying the plugin and doing it yourself, but it's a convenience. It's a service you can order as a convenience. If you want them to just build the store and implement and install everything for you, you can do that as well. And then they also offer hosting for WordPress-based dropshipping websites. So AliDropship, they have a lot of different products and services, all focused around AliExpress dropshipping businesses. So they also offer hosting, which is really nice just to make things really simple, easy, one-stop shop. That's another benefit there with AliDropship. That's what they offer. So that's the answer there to what is AliDropship and what is Shopify. So Shopify is a little bit different. It's actually just an all-in-one e-commerce platform to build an online store. So when I say it's just that, it's pretty much everything. I mean, they really are the key there with e-commerce. You can build a website with them and an online store, so you could realistically host any kind of products that you actually want on Shopify. Now, if you are going the AliDropship route, if you want to add other products, you would need to probably utilize the WooCommerce version if you want to add other products. Whereas with Shopify, you can add anything you want from the get-go, and then you can install and add dropshipping products with Oberlo or Spocket. So that's how you're going to add that dropshipping products that you want to add to your store. It could be AliExpress products. We're going to get into more of the pros and cons here in just a minute, but those are two of the different options that you can utilize to add those dropshipping products to your regular e-commerce store, because Shopify by default is not really designed for dropshipping. You do have to add those other plugins to Shopify to make it a dropshipping store, or a Shopify dropshipping store. You have to add these other plugins such as Oberlo or Spocket, just as a couple of examples in the video here today. So continuing here, AliDropship Pros. What are the pros of AliDropship? One-time fee. We're going to get into the exact pricing comparisons later in this video, so hold tight if you want to see the exact pricing breakdown. But AliDropship, they only charge a one-time fee for their actual plugin, so there's no monthly cost there as far as the plugin goes with AliDropship. They also have free themes. Shopify also has free themes as well, so this is a pro for both of them realistically. And you can bulk import right from the beginning with AliDropship, which is somewhat of a premium feature on some of the other Shopify dropshipping apps. They charge a bit more if you want to be able to do bulk importing, but you get that right away with AliDropship, so it's another pro there. And full ownership. Now, full ownership, to really understand what full ownership means, you have to understand what open source is. So open source is denoting software from which the original source code is made freely available and may be redistributed and modified. So what exactly does that mean? It basically means that you retain full ownership of your store's content and data forever. So because you're utilizing the backbone of WordPress and WooCommerce, you could use either one, WordPress or WooCommerce with AliDropship, you have full ownership there, which we'll get into more of the details here with how that differs from Shopify in just a little bit. But that's what open source means. If you're using WordPress and WooCommerce, and then with AliDropship, you're taking advantage of the open source platform as far as WordPress and WooCommerce, which is nice because then you have full ownership, which is a huge benefit in the long run. So some of the cons with AliDropship, some of the negatives, the drawbacks, is that it's a little bit hands-on with the setup and maintenance. Now, you can get around this if you use their custom store feature, but you're going to pay a bit extra for that, obviously, because it's a convenience feature. The hands-on setup and maintenance, there are tutorials out there. It's not the worst thing ever. It's possible to do it, but in general, even after you get things set up with AliDropship, with a WordPress or WooCommerce website, there's still a little bit more maintenance in comparison to Shopify. So it's something to consider. It's not the worst thing in the world. If you're tech savvy, it's not the worst thing in the world. You can figure it out. Another thing, WordPress knowledge. Like I said, if you're comparing WordPress versus Shopify, which you are if you're comparing AliDropship versus Shopify, you have to compare WordPress versus Shopify. WordPress knowledge, it's a little bit more hands-on. It's a little bit more up to you to figure things out with WordPress, whereas Shopify is a little bit more streamlined. And it could do with the open source factors there. It's just a comparison that you have to think about when you're deciding on what kind of website platform that you want to use for your online store. That's something to consider. It's a bit more hands-on with WordPress, whereas things are a little bit easier and streamlined with Shopify. The next con here with AliDropship is that you're limited to AliExpress products. So that's one of the major drawbacks here, is that you can't actually add any other products that you want to if you are utilizing AliDropship within WordPress. So you're limited to those AliExpress products, whereas with Shopify, you can add as many different other dropshipping apps. Now, I do say, though, one thing to point out, though, is that if you are using WooCommerce, you can still add other products within WooCommerce if you're using AliDropship Woo. So that is one thing to consider there if you're debating whether you're going to just go with the regular AliDropship plugin for WordPress or if you're going to go with AliDropship Woo for WooCommerce. A little bit more flexibility if you go the WooCommerce route, but if you're just using the regular AliDropship with WordPress, you are limited to those AliExpress products by nature. Moving into Shopify. Now, the Shopify Pros is that it's easy to set up. Okay, it's super simple. They make it really, really, really easy for you to get set up with Shopify. WordPress, a little bit more hands-on. So that's a big comparison there. Manage hosting. So with Shopify, it's going to be a bit easier to handle the hosting because Shopify handles it for you. It's managed hosting. There are pros and cons to managed hosting. It's important to understand that, which ties back into the whole open source thing, which we're going to get into in just a little bit. And then great support. Shopify support team, you can call them up. They can answer your questions. Very responsive team. It's Shopify. That's what you can come to expect. There's just really solid support there because it's managed hosting. It's a little bit more of a premium experience, to say the least. And on top of that, you have various different dropshipping apps that you can add. I only mentioned a couple in the video here today with Oberlo and Spocket, but there's a lot of different options that you have for adding dropshipping products. And lastly, you have security and uptime guarantee. Goes along with the managed hosting. You're just going to have a little bit better security and uptime guarantee when you're using Shopify in comparison to WordPress or AliDropship. Moving into the cons, the Shopify cons, the ongoing monthly fees. It's a little bit more premium. It's going to cost you a little bit more money to use Shopify. It is what it is. We're going to get into the pricing comparison and breakdown just a little bit, so hold tight. But that's something to consider there. Ongoing monthly fees, it's a little bit more expensive to use Shopify. Once again, more expensive apps. And this thing is, the more expensive apps does not just it's not just the dropshipping apps that are more expensive. It's also any other apps you want to add to your store. So if you want to do email marketing or you want to do conversion optimization, anything you really add in as an app to your store, it's going to be generally more expensive than the plugins that you can add in WordPress. That there's a lot more free plugins in WordPress, and even if you do have to pay for a license, it's a little bit cheaper. So something to consider there when you're building your store. A little bit more expensive on the Shopify side, although there are a lot of free apps on Shopify too. So it's still up to you to decide and look into what type of app requirements you might have outside of just the dropshipping apps. Lastly, here is no ownership. Now, this goes into the open source thing. When you're using managed hosting like Shopify, you do have a somewhat lack of ownership. This comes directly from the Shopify legal page. So as you can see in their terms of service, you can go to that URL if you want to read this through the whole thing yourself, but I just screenshotted this one bit here, and it goes into Shopify rights. So we reserve, this is from Shopify, we reserve the right to modify or terminate the services for any reason without notice at any time. So which means we can modify, cancel, or refuse the service at any time. So they have full control over your store. If they don't like what you're doing with your store in some way or another, they reserve the right to shut down your store. Now, how often does this happen? It's probably unlikely. You can consult the Shopify legal team to figure that out for yourself, but it's something to consider with managed hosting. Because it's not open source with Shopify, they reserve the right to modify, cancel, or refuse the service anytime. So they could shut down your store for some reason. It's something to consider there. How often does it happen? Like I said, probably not that often. It's probably pretty rare, but it is something that could potentially happen. It's within the realm of possibility. So that's another thing to consider there within the lack of ownership that you have on Shopify, just because they reserve that right there. So you can read more into their legal terms. I left the URL on screen. If you go there, you can read into it if you want to. How likely is it to happen? Probably not that likely, but that's up to you to decide. Moving into the next section here. So the pricing comparison, AliDropship versus Shopify. What is the pricing comparison? This is what I know a lot of you guys care about, is how can you save money? What are the costs? We're going to lay that all out right now. So the domain. First thing you're going to need is domain. Now, this is going to be pretty similar across the two different platforms within AliDropship or Shopify. It's going to be around $10 per year on either platform. Realistically, this is not going to matter all that much because you could get it from another outside third-party domain provider and just connect it in. You can also get your domain set up directly through each of them, and you can sign up that way. Now, if you do buy a domain directly through Shopify, then, if you wanted to buy a new domain for your Shopify store, you can buy a domain through Shopify to simplify the setup process. And when you buy a custom domain through Shopify, your domain settings are automatically configured for you. So that's something to consider there. It's a little bit more streamlined. And then the custom domains purchased through Shopify start at $11 USD per year. The exact pricing depends on what top level domain or TLD extension you choose. This is all coming directly from the Shopify Help Center as well on their buying a domain. And the various pricing, it may differ depending on the extension, such as .com, .org, or .net. And there's various pricing and availability of the domain. So, and that goes for both Shopify and for AliDropship. So the pricing can vary depending on what domain you use, or if you need to transfer in a custom domain from another domain registrar. So that's really pretty similar there. Hosting. So hosting, or the plan per month. With AliDropship, you're still going to need hosting for WordPress, and that hosting plan for WordPress or WooCommerce is going to come out to about $4 per month. So pretty reasonable. That's what the entry level. And by the way, these hosting plans, this is the starting. This is like the basic plans. Okay, you can always scale up your hosting to, if you have higher hosting demands and needs, it's gonna cost you more money if you need to go for a higher up, more premium plan. The pricing here is just the basic plans. So the entry level plans, this is the bare minimum it's going to cost you for that hosting plan per month. With Shopify, it's a little bit more because they do the manage hosting. So you have a little bit more premium experience benefits there. It's $29 per month. This is for the basic Shopify plan. So a little bit cheaper if you're just going with the basic WordPress or WooCommerce AliDropship plan. $4 a month versus $29 a month. So, and then that hosting plan per year comes out to $48 per year with AliDropship. And this is if you go directly through AliDropship. You could also use a platform like Bluehost, linked down in the description box below, where you can set up your WordPress hosting, and then you can always add the AliDropship plugin later. So that's up to you. And then you also have the Shopify hosting plan per year. This is for basic Shopify. If you just multiply $29 times 12, then you're going to come out to $348 per year. So quite a bit more expensive. It's about $300 per year more expensive when you're comparing the hosting and plan. But like I said, it's all just depends on what type of experience that you want. And then the plugin cost with AliDropship, it is only that $89 one-time payment. That's pretty nice because you pay for it once and you own it forever. So the one-time payment. And with Shopify, there isn't really a direct plugin cost. These are the apps. So we're going to go into the dropshipping apps per month. This is basically the plugin cost for Shopify. And whereas AliDropship does not actually have a app like cost per month, AliDropship just has the one-time payment. This is what the cost per month will be with Shopify. So as you can see here, this ranges from anywhere from $0, so you can get started for free with Oberlo or Spocket. They both have free plans that you can start with, and then the pricing can go all the way up to $115 per month with Spocket. And Oberlo is a little bit cheaper than Spocket on the higher tier plans, but that's something to consider there. That's just the top end of the potential pricing range, and then the top end of the potential pricing range per year is $0 all the way up to $1,380 per year. That's if you're on the annual plan, like the top maxed out annual plan of Spocket. Really just depends on your needs. And then the total cost per year, this is the minimum total cost per year, is you have that $48 per year with AliDropship plus the $89 one-time fee. This does not take into account your domain, but the domain is going to be the same across the board, whether you're on AliDropship or Shopify. You're going to have to pay for the domain either way, so they basically come out to exactly the same. And then if you're going with Shopify, is $348 per year. So this is taking into account if you just use the free plan of Oberlo or Spocket, you just use the free plan, and then you just are paying for Shopify. That's what the cost is for Shopify, and then that is what the cost is for AliDropship. So AliDropship's a little bit cheaper than Shopify, but it depends on what your needs are. So which is better, right? To conclude the video here, which is better? AliDropship, if you want to save money and be a bit more hands-on with the setup, maybe you have some WordPress knowledge already, go with AliDropship. If you want that real custom experience, then go with AliDropship if you don't mind doing that hands-on setup. And then if you're want to go with a smooth experience and you're okay with spending a bit more money to save time and hassle, then go with Shopify. It's a bit more streamlined, a little bit easier to get set up with. If you don't mind spending more money, then go with Shopify. That's really the biggest comparison here between AliDropship and Shopify. If you want to get started with AliDropship, Shopify, or even my dropshipping course, you can find the links down below in the description to all of those. You can go ahead and check those out. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and the notification bell so you're notified whenever I release a new video. And that is all for today, guys. So I will see you in the next one. Peace out.